So remember in the like mid-19th century, we looked at Sanger's study on prostitution, and we said one of the things Sanger's study told us is that in the 19th century, women weren't viewed as sexual beings. And so we talked about Emily Dickinson and Susan Gilbert, and then we later in the century looked at Jane Addams and Mary Rossett Smith. And what it allowed for is women who we would identify as lesbian, allowed for them to basically kind of like go under the radar because women weren't viewed as sexual beings. And the only time they were connected with any kind of sexuality is in connection with a man. It was assumed to be heterosexual. So, as we move into the 20th century, the 1900s, there are new ideas about sexuality. There's actually a whole group of people called sexologists that study sexuality. Some of this we can actually see, some of this will also become like the field of psychology. And they argue that sex is a good thing, that something to talk about and consider, whereas before it hadn't been talked about. However, they argue that sex is a good thing as long as it's normal, and they define normal sex as sex between man and a woman. Any sex that happens outside of sex between man and woman is deemed deviant or having a perversion. And so while these new ideas about sexuality are good for heterosexual women, because now they're being recognized as sexual beings, for women who will identify as lesbian, this is the beginning of associating homosexuality with a sickness. And so these women began then finding comfort in their own communities. And this is where on your outline you've got Ma Rainey and Radcliffe Hall. So Ma Rainey's also our connection to the Harlem Renaissance. She was a singer, and she's got the lyrics to her song, and then I also gave you them too. If you read her lyrics, she's clearly a woman expressing desire for another woman. And this is since Ma Rainey is a bisexual woman. She writes here or sings here, folks say I'm crooked, I didn't know where she took it, right? And she's crooked, she's not straight. Later she says, talk to the gals just like any old man. Went out last night with a crowd of my friends, they must have been women because I don't like no man. So she very clearly is expressing her sexuality in this song. And oftentimes, people within the LGBTQ community could find some like comfort and also just friendship and acceptance in some of the bars in Harlem because other social taboos are being broken. Now, some of the bars in Harlem were still segregated. Black people had to enter in the back door or perform and then leave through the back door, but other bars in Harlem were integrated. You had black people and white people dancing together. You had people, women are smoking, women are drinking. This is the era of Prohibition. So it's technically not illegal to consume alcohol, but it was illegal to manufacture and distribute it. So you're kind of participating in law-breaking activity by consuming it. And so all these other social taboos are being broken. So two women dancing together or two men dancing together, it's just one more social taboo. And so in those bars in Harlem, gay men and women often found acceptance. This perhaps makes more sense later when we get to the civil rights movement. When we tell the stories of civil rights, we'll look at the role that lesbian women played, and we'll see in one of the sparks of the gay rights movement is Stonewall. And it sort of maybe makes sense that it might initiate in a bar, the civil rights movement might initiate in a bar if you have this history of the 1920s where LGBTQ peoples could find some acceptance in bars. Now the other person that you have on here is Radcliffe Hall. She wrote a book called Well of Loneliness. And we'll again, in the 1950s, we'll look at Pulp Fiction. And this is Well of Loneliness is kind of a precursor to the books that we're going to look at in the 50s. Willow's Loneliness is kind of like, and these lesbian novels that were written in the 20s are kind of like the Cinema novels we looked at in like the 1820s and 30s, like 100 years before. They all followed a similar plot. And then remember at the end, the woman did great, she was all good, but then she had to get married, or she died. Um, the same thing would happen in these lesbian novels. You have these two women, they love each other, everything was great. But at the end, somebody died and somebody had to get married to a man. But Radcliffe Hall's book was seen as like groundbreaking because at the end of her book, the one character married a man, but her main character, who's probably largely modeled off her name was Stephen, she lived her life. It's the well of loneliness, but she didn't die and she didn't get married. So it was seen as like a more positive portrayal. But if you read it today, oh, it's a heavy book. It does not feel positive in any way. I give you a link there that talks a little bit about some of the challenges the book faced because it was deemed obscene, and so was banned in England and then actually had a trial here in the United States too. All right. If you have any questions, you can leave those in the discussion board. Take care.